So the second position I moved into is where I shifted over to the new business development team. And I was new business development rep. And for the first week in training, sitting down, listening to guys on calls, understanding the subject matter and things like that. Week two of training was supposed to be like on my self-directed training schedule was like, all right, now I want to learn how do they plan their days? How do they determine who do they follow up with? What's the scheduling? What's the strategy behind them making calls? And on that first day of training, they told me that there was no plan. That they kind of like pulled up a list and decided they were going to call this group of people today. And then if they weren't having any luck on that list, they'd go to another list and they just jump around. And it was, we use Salesforce, so we log all of our calls and things like that. But that was simply a place where we stored data. It's where we stored the information from these calls. We weren't using it as a strategic tool. And so there's a book, Predictable Revenue, which I assume you've read. I assume most of your team must have read that book. Recommended to me by your boss. In Predictable Revenue, it outlines this idea of it. Sales is a numbers game, and it's a funnel. If you get enough people into the funnel and get them through the different stages, come out with a certain number of sales, et cetera. And so you can scale it and things like that. But it takes a strategy in order to do it. And so my second week in that role, I just started plotting out a strategy for our department that I was the newest guy on, and everybody had been doing it for a while. And I was just frustrated because if there's no strategy, you're just like pointless activities.
Exactly.
And so my boss had a weekly meeting with each of us individually that we just kind of debrief. And he was checking in with me and saying, hey, how's it going in the new role? How's training been and everything? I said, training's been good. Everyone's been very nice, very helpful. I appreciate being on the team. He's like, so like, any thoughts that you want to share with me just on like how, I don't know what you see coming in the role, what you're looking forward to. And I said, well, I have a question about how we prospect. He's like, okay. I was like, how do we prospect? Strategy. And he's like, I don't think I understand. And I said, I think how we do it is broken. I think the system we use is broken because there is no system. He's like, okay. And then I slid across my decision tree that I had grafted out. And I said, I think this is a better way of doing it. And I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I felt like I could my second week on the job. And I'd never made any calls say there's a better way of doing this. But my boss looked at it, spent a few minutes evaluating it, asking questions, and then said, all right, then go do this. And then eventually over the time in that role, we rolled out for the whole department. And so we all had access to it. We were able to build it into Salesforce and do things like that. So I don't know. I went home and told my wife that I presented this to him, and she was like, wait, who are you? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I did it. Just like, I felt like we had to because what we were doing wasn't working.